So there's a Birdhouse Gourd canteen or container. Very, very useful once it's dried out and cleaned out for holding pretty much anything. It's watertight, pretty sturdy, and I've attached some netting here. It's pretty simple how to do this. I just did a simple tie here, but you wouldn't be able to set this down. It'd wobble over, and you don't want your liquid or whatever you're having fall out. So this is one method. I'm going to work on another method so that you can be able to set this down. This method here would be if you had very little cordage. The other method would require a lot more cordage because we're going to try and create a base for it and be able to actually set it down. Right now it'll, with this little knot at the bottom here, it'll just kind of fall right over. So at any rate, this is one way to tie it, one way to put it in a little nest. Okay, how I did this was originally I just took a cord and tied it around, and then I took 4 longer strands and bail slung them equidistant around, and then I just knotted them with an overhand knot to their neighbors. Okay, here all the way around like so. Okay, and I just did it once and then did it twice around, and then just made a knot at the bottom, gathered all the strands together and made a knot. And then I attached cordage to the same beginning string that I attached to loop the weavers around, and then just added an old cork. I could have whittled some wood to fit. A little painstaking when you do it that way, but you have to make sure it's tight so that no water or whatever you're going to store in this kind of container leaks out. Let's see here. The only drawback to this way of doing it like this is it doesn't take as much cordage, but the problem is you can't set it down. It'll always you either have to always have it hanging and let gravity work with you, or this has to be really, really watertight. You don't ever really want to trust that. Something that's very rustically made and your precious water leaking out. So you will have to try to create some sort of base here. So that's what we're going to do, is create a base here and kind of do the same sort of netting, and see if we can get it so that it can be set down, or you can carry it with a handle or a strap or whatever. So we have our gourd here that I've already cut off the top part of it, sanded it a little bit, treated it. You can embellish these however you want. People paint them, varnish them, all kinds of stuff. I don't know, I like the elegance of simplicity oftentimes. Anyways, this particular shape of gourd actually sits pretty good by itself, standing straight up. I mean, as you saw, it wobbled a bit. I mean, it'd be easily tipped over. So we're going to try and wrap it in some netting that'll keep it from doing that. So we're gonna need kind of some thicker cordage here, which I have, and all this is this jute cordage, store-bought jute cordage. It's just easier to come by instead of processing a whole bunch of natural fibers for this demo. There's 4 strands of these. I think this is either 2 or 3 millimeters in diameter, and so I take 4 of these and then I reverse twist them. So I'm getting this here. So this is fairly thick, and I would just want to for this I'm just going to do what's called a fisherman's knot, and it's basically like you're clasping your hands together like this, and so many people get this knot kind of confused because it is kind of tricky. So I'm going to make an overhand knot, and then I want to take my other end and put it through that loop of the overhand knot. And I can kind of tighten this down a little bit. Then I want to take the end that's going through the overhand knot, I want to make an overhand knot over the body of the main strand, something like that. And then what I can do now is I can tighten these knots down and I can pull them together like that. Okay, so it's a kind of a nice tight way to make or splice two pieces of cordage together, and it's a pretty strong knot. Use it all the time for fishing. This is called the fisherman's knot. When you do some line and you need to reconnect. So we want this sort of configuration. I'm going to cut the ends here just so that that's neat. There is, because of the thickness of the cordage, there is a bump here, but that's not going to stop or hinder this setting, the gourd from setting. So I'm going to go ahead and take my cutting tool, and I'm just going to snip these edges. Make sure this is real tight. This will fit on the bottom like so. So I just want to cinch this real tight. I kind of can even flatten this down. Then I want to take this and just snip these like that. And then I don't really like cutting cordage because in case you have to dismantle this, then at least you have some cordage that's not cut. So this is going to be our base, and this will sit in our base like so, nice and solid, it doesn't wobble. Alright. So next, what we are going to do is I have some reverse twisted cordage here for our neck, and any of the reverse twisting that you see that I have here can all be single lines of cordage. I'm doing this for aesthetics and for strength. The only thick part for the way that I'm going to make a net for this gourd is the base. So this is the only part that you want thick or big around. Okay, so just know that this is reverse twisted. I've got video on that as well. I'll put a link below, and I'm just doing this for aesthetics. This could be single, it'd be fine if you don't have enough cordage to do that. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to make a overhand knot like so, and snip this around the base, the top of the neck of our gourd. Okay, and now that I found my circumference, I'll just go ahead and do a square knot and just kind of cinch that down. Like that. Want it a little loose, not too tight. So we've got our top loop here. This is going to be our origin for everything for this type of wrapping. And you can leave these tassels here, put some beads on them. They could also be part of your suspension system for hanging your gourd or whatever. I'm not going to do that for this one, but I'm just throwing that idea out there, and I'm going to just make this. I'm going to snip these so that they're out of the way for the demo, because lots of cordage can be a little confusing to know where stuff is at when you're doing a bunch of wraps and braids and stuff like that. So this will just fit on here like that. Okay, we're going to take 4 strands of cordage, and I'm not giving you exact measurements because the size of the gourd could be different and the shape and everything. So basically I just cut it long enough. This is about half my arm width span, so from fingertip to armpit or fingertip to the middle of the chest, and then I just doubled it over, just folded it over. So we need 4 of these for this size of gourd. You probably need more if it was a larger gourd. And we're just going to bail sling these on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the knot here. And at first I'm just going to put the loop through here and then feed my thread or my cordage through. And I'm going to do it right on the knot. That'll help secure the knot as well and add to the aesthetics. So that'll be like that. And then 180 degrees from that, I want to do the same thing. So directly across from that, I'm gonna do a bail sling just to connect these. Oops. So we want this sort of configuration, and now I'm just going to put that on like a collar. Okay. So the next thing is now very similar to some other videos that I have, and just this basic netting. So I'm not using a netting needle or any sort of extravagant fancy knot. I'm just going to do a good old-fashioned granny knot, and I'm just going to go overhand or an overhand knot, and I'm just going to go around and just make the knot like that. And I want it, I don't know, probably a third to an eighth of the way down the side. And so that was these two pairs. Then the next pair, I want to do the same thing, and I'm going to eyeball how far away they are, how far from the top they are. So nothing real exact here. It's just about approximations. There's that, and then I want to go and grab the next one. And if you make the knot too big, sometimes at the start of it, then you can just kind of use your fingers to kind of pinch it and place it where you want to on your line. Alright, and then last one, just like that. Up here like so. Okay, so we have this kind of nice little pattern here. Okay, so we're going to do this again, except we're going to go kind of below the mid section of the gourd body here, slightly below. Same concept. I want the knots to kind of land probably about right here. And I'm going to grab the next pairs. That are adjacent to each other, and continue making granny knots all the way around. So this next pair right here, just want to eyeball where the knot should land. Okay. Okay, so we've got 2 rows of knots, and so for the original, if we had very little cordage, we could, at this point, we could stop here, and I would knot this off at the bottom, at the base, and attach our suspension system, and we'd be good. The problem is you have a knot here, and this will wobble all over the place. So we're going to continue on and not do it this way, but it is an option. Next, I want to attach the suspension system, or a suspension system. And so I have some cordage here that I just put an overhand knot in, so it's a loop. And on the ring that we started, I'm going to take my bite or my bend in my cordage, make sure that this is nice and even, And I'm just gonna slide this up underneath and then over the neck, okay? And then down the other side of the ring, 180 degrees. And make sure this goes around the neck. Okay. This will be part of our suspension system. Okay. So we're getting lots of cordage kind of in the way here. Hopefully this doesn't get too confusing. But we need to do this now before everything gets tied down. All right. So we're going to add a cork as our stopper. And I kind of lucked out because I had these corks in my stash of primitive stuff, resources. Got boxes of stuff, knick-knack. Anyways, this happens to fit this size perfectly. I might not get so lucky the next time I make one, so sometimes you might have to fashion one out of a piece of wood here, or whatever you may have. A rag might work as well. And this would sit in here, and then you would what you could do is, if it doesn't fit exactly, I've found that if you have enough cordage, you can whip some cordage around a cork that doesn't really fit, and that will help wedge it in there, and you'll have a tighter seal. Okay, so that's one way to do it. If you don't have access to cork, you certainly could fashion some sort of stopper out of a piece of wood or a rag, or even cordage. You can make a big old knot or something. So for this project, we're going to use some cork. And I'm going to take my cutting tool here, and as you can see, I've already started cutting some notches. And I want notches in here because I want the string to the cordage to hold on to this cork and not lose it. I'm just taking my cutting tool and just cutting some notches in here all the way around. Nothing fancy, nothing real perfect. I'm just cutting little wedges in here. Okay. All right, and then our stopper. I'm gonna get another piece of cordage here. So the length of it is, we want to attach this on here. So lots of ways we could do this. I could do a bottle sling. I could do all kinds of fancy cool things. I'm gonna keep it real simple, and I'm just gonna tie this around here, and I'm just gonna do an overhand knot and then another overhand knot over that. Real quick and dirty, real easy, real simple. Nothing at all extravagant. And actually, I'm going to do a double overhand knot, and then I'm just cinch this tight. And that's one thing with the double overhand, you can really kind of pull on these things and get them really tight. And so now those grooves are going to set this cordage in here. So this is the cord. I'm not going to lose my cork right away. Okay. Okay. And then I'm just going to do an overhand knot on top of that. Or I could wrap around and just do an overhand knot here, which is what I'll do. So I did a double overhand knot here and cinching it really tight so that they set into the grooves that we cut. And then I'm going to take this and wrap around here and then just do an overhand knot. That way I don't lose the tightness of my first knot, because when I wanted to do another knot on top of it, it wanted to loosen up on me. We don't want that. We don't want to lose our cork. Okay, so now all I'm going to do, and I don't have to do this at this point, I could totally do another overhand knot on top of this, like so. I'm not going to make it tight. I'm going to do it and get rid of this, cut this piece off, and just attach this, and one single string will be just fine. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reverse twist this really quickly, and just because, no special reason, aesthetics I guess, and then just reverse twist it. So if you have enough resources, if you have enough cordage, then this embellishment you could do, and if you have the time, but you don't have to. Let's reverse twist this. So get that. Now, okay, so I think we got plenty of length here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop here. I've got my 2 strands like that for my reverse twisted cordage for my cork, my stopper, and I'm just going to do an overhand knot, which is going to hold and secure the twist. Okay, like that. Okay, now I do want this little bit of length here, like so, because it's the way that we're going to suspend this onto our netting. And I want to make sure that this goes over, and I'm going to go ahead and make another overhand knot. So I've got this, like these 2 separate strands, and then now I just want to make another overhand knot. And before I get it really tight, I want to make sure that this will pass through it. Yeah. Okay. And easy peasy. So, okay. Now at this stage, this is where you could add beads and all kinds of other embellishments if you want to. I like that sort of decoration if it's done right. For me, I like it really simple. You do whatever you want. But for this one, I'm just going to attach this as is, no beads or anything like that. Go ahead and get rid of the tails here, because I don't need them. And let me do this again. Yeah, no, this will be good enough. All right, so now we've got our suspension system attached to our container. There, like that. Okay. So I just want to I'm gonna tuck these in here, just so I don't lose them, and they're out of the way. That's the main thing. I want this out of the way for clarity. Okay, so that's out of the way, and then at the same juncture, I'm going to attach this in the same manner. So just using a bail sling. So we've created this loop here for our cork to pass through. And basically it's just kind of like a really pretty bail sling. And that'll attach onto our main knot to our first ring. I want that on here, not off to the side. It wants to fight me. So I'll get this on here. Okay. Alright, so now we are at the stage where we want to tighten everything down and attach our netting to the base here that we've created. So this is going to be the tricky part. So I want to set this on somewhere on the center of my base, like so. And I want to take my cordage, and I want to go around and work one at 180 degrees from each. So I just want to, and this is kind of tricky, so you're going to wrestle with it. It's going to wobble. And but for now, I just want to kind of do a loose attachment. So I want a very nice loose knot here that I can undo later. Okay. I'm doing this for positioning. Then we'll go back and tighten it down. So then on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over my cordage, okay? So hopefully you're getting the concept here of what we're about to do. And now that this is in place, I'm just going to kind of loosely tie this down. Okay. Nothing major yet. All right, and then I want to make sure nothing has come undone for our okay, yep, everything's still attached properly. Make sure our suspension system is in there. All right. And I'm doing this on this table. I can put this between my knees and it's much more easier, so I can hold everything steady. But bear with me. So this is going to fold over, do the same thing. So you're just basically going to work 180 degrees from each side. Okay. And at this point, now I've got this over, and I want to take these two strands that I just pulled over the top of our ring base, and I want to pull this somewhat tight. Now I lost my other side here, so before I pull anything tight, I want to fasten this to it and then pull these tight like so. Okay, so you're getting the just here now, so I can really kind of start to tighten this down, which is the reason why I wanted to make sure everything was secure up top here, because once you tighten this down, it's kind of tough to get stuff underneath it and attach. So I can really kind of tighten this down, and then now I'm just going to do an overhand knot to secure it on top of that. That'll hold that. And then on the other side, same thing. And then I can make sure that the lengths for aesthetics are the same. Just want to overhand knot this, hold it into place like that, and then now we can work on the opposite sides. So we got this already cinched up here. I'm gonna take this and then again pull these tight. And then overhand knot on top of that. And then on the opposite side here, see, I want to incorporate this knot here into this. So I want my string to go on top of it, and then each strand should straddle one side of the main line, like that. Okay. And then I'm going to pull this tight. Likes to slip. A little off camera there, sorry about that. Make sure we're kind of equal distance, so I'm going to really pull on this. That's why I said everything's going to start to tighten down. Okay. So we have this configuration here. Okay, so this is what we were shooting for. So we wanted to make sure that we have a ring that's set on here, and now it's much more secure. This is not going anywhere. It's not wobbling over so easily. And we wanted to do all these, tying our suspension system and our cork and all that prior to that tightening portion, because it'd be very difficult to start slide stuff, and we don't want to dent or crack or scratch our container. So and now at this stage, however you want to do it, at this stage I can put my cork in. Shouldn't worry about it falling through, because we have our cordage here that should stop it falling through if it's too loose or something. But we got our cork in there, and our suspension system is just like this. Okay, so it'll hold everything evenly. Okay, so that's our suspension system. All right. So we'll just kind of tighten some things up here. Okay. So there's our suspension system. Everything's on here, nice and tight. It'll sit down. And now we're going to, at this stage, this pretty much holds. I'm going to just tighten my overhand knot, and I can have these nice little dangly bits here. It doesn't stop it from setting up. Put some beads on them, whatever, however you want to embellish it. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. So the one thing about all those little simple knots that we use is, if I need this cordage again, I can simply undo everything. It's, even if as tight as I got it, I can still undo these granny knots. I could still undo these bail slings, because I only did a single overhand knot. I could probably just tie little bows in them. All right, and that'll all the way around, and that'll keep, and I can always undo these later. But for this, I'm gonna make it somewhat permanent, and in a primitive situation, a survival situation, I guess, you know, I would encourage to avoid cutting your cordage, because you may need to repurpose it or reuse it. So that's why knowing your knots is a good thing, because you're able to lengthen or shorten or splice together different pieces of cordage. You also understand how knots work, and so as opposed to cutting a knot, you can kind of figure out how to undo a knot if you have the time and the patience. But doing knots will give you the patience, because you got to learn them, and sometimes they're difficult. So I would encourage you not to cut your cordage as much as you can. So, but for this demo, I'm going to do it anyways. So I'm just going to do another overhand knot on here, and that'll lock it in. And then I'm going to cut these dangly bits off, and this will secure our netting for this container, canteen, or whatever. Alright, and voila, there you go. We've got a nice little base that will keep this pretty secure, keep it from wobbling around. We can set it down, and it doesn't easily topple over. Okay. So we have our suspension system here that can be attached to our belt or a backpack or whatever, that's incorporated within the netting. We're going to go a step further, just as an idea. I have some finger woven cordage that I did a couple of years ago, and this is again just store-bought cordage. You could do some finger weaving to make a nice little strap, and you can attach your suspension system to a strap like this, And again, I just finished off the weaving by putting an overhand knot in there. As you can see, I'm a fan of overhand knot. They work. So I'm going to take our suspension system here, and I'm just going to make a loop like that. Okay. So again, I'm just folding this down and then pulling the strand through. Then I can stick my knot or my cordage in through that above the knot, and I can cinch this down. And now this is attached and it's not going anywhere. And then it's easy to undo. All right, it's ridiculously simple to undo. But as long as there's tension on here, this is not going anywhere. It's as opposed to a permanent knot. And I can do the same thing to the other side. Just fold this down. And then pop my strap through, and then cinch down my, basically a bail sling. Cinch down my bail sling like that. And this is not going anywhere. And easy to undo. So this would be a one way to attach more robust strap work to your canteen or your container. Okay. So just some ideas here. I would shorten this, obviously. I would shorten this a bit and just use the strap. All kinds of other ways that I could have incorporated the strap into here. There's a billion and one ways to do any one thing, and that's what's fascinating about primitive technology for me. So you can always do some research, and Pinterest Pinterest is really bad. You can get on Pinterest and not get off. 3 hours later, but there's just ways to spark ideas, get inspiration, ways other cultures, other people do stuff. So anyways, I hope this was interesting, and I will archive this for myself for later so I can remember how to do this again. Alright, here's our finished piece here. It's a lot different from the original that I showed earlier, and we have a base here that keeps this from wobbling and more steady when you set it down. The tassels don't get in the way. I've added a cork. Got this suspension system in here. So this line just hangs down like so, and you put the cork in, or the stopper. And this is pretty watertight. So yeah, I like